here by saying I recently did a survey in my show community, and this is an interactive program. I like to routinely check on what the viewers think of my output, what kind of stories I focus on, and all that stuff. And I did get a lot of support for a certain genre of video that I do, which is about food. Though, that said, there were a couple people that filled out the survey and said, can you please shut the fuck up about my diet? And to those people, I hear you, I see you, but I do not give a fuck about you in any other way than trying to fix your diet. So, I want to read this article from CNN Health, everybody. Here's how to eat to live longer, new study says. We're gonna eat to live longer? Whoa. No one ever told me about that. You can reduce your risk of an early death for any reason by nearly 20%. Just by eating more foods from your choice of 4 healthy eating patterns, according to a new study. So I want to say this once again. My regular viewers already know this. 95% of Americans do not eat fruits and vegetables. They do not eat whole grain. They do not eat fiber. 95% of Americans are chronically malnourished. 95% of Americans are so fucking stupid that they can't eat vegetables. Think about this. Right? Think about cartoons, you know, and like television programs and sitcoms. Whenever like you have a kid character in these, you know, in these movies, right? Like what do? Right? Oh, the kid won't eat their broccoli. Oh, we got to do the airplane. Right? Does anyone remember the airplane? Well, apparently 95% of American adults are toddlers. They don't eat vegetables. What? What? 95% of Americans don't eat vegetables? I mean, I know a lot of people, when they become 18, 19, they go to college, you know, they're like, oh, fuck you, mom, fuck you, dad, I'm eating ice cream for breakfast. But I mean, 40-year-olds, you're still eating ice cream for breakfast, bro? I mean, your parents are dead. You're not sticking it to the man anymore, motherfucker. People who carefully followed any of the healthy eating patterns, which all share a focus on consuming more whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and legumes, were also less likely to die from cancer, cardiovascular illness, and respiratory and neurodegenerative disease. For me, you ask me why I try to focus on eating healthy? I don't want dementia. That's why. I don't want to get that shit. That shit's fucking scary. That shit's fucking scary. Like, imagine you're walking around. All of a sudden, it's 1965. Whoa, it's the glory days, right? You know, you leave the house and then there's flying cars. What year is it? Oh, shit, it's 2073. I don't want that. I don't want to forget what time it is, what day it is, what year it is. I don't want to forget who my family members are. So you ask me why I focus on healthy eating? It's because I want people to remember my fucking show. That's why. Because if you all get demented and die, who the fuck's gonna remember my show? So anyway, the results of the study published Monday in the journal JAMA Internal Medicine show, quote, there is more than one way to eat well and derive the attendant health benefits, said Dr. David Katz, a lifestyle medicine specialist who was not involved in the study. People often get bored with one way of eating, study co-author Dr. Franku said. So this is good news. It means we have a lot of flexibility in terms of creating our own healthy dietary patterns that can be tailored to individual food preferences, health conditions, and cultures. Quote, for example, if you are eating healthy Mediterranean and after a few months you want to try something different, you can switch to a DASH, dietary approaches to stop hypertension diet, Or you can switch to a semi-vegetarian diet. What the fuck is semi-vegetarian? Said who? I don't know what that is. Or you can follow U.S. dietary guidelines and create your own healthy eating plate. Do not, under any circumstance, follow U.S. dietary guidelines. I'm just saying that. U.S. dietary guidelines is trash. U.S. dietary guidelines is bought and paid for by the food industry. Fuck that shit. So I don't know what's going on with this guy. A long-term study. The study followed the eating habits of 75,000 women participating in the Nurses' Health Study and 44,000 men in the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study over 36 years. None of the men and women had cardiovascular disease at the start of the study, and few were smokers. All filled out eating questionnaires every 4 years. Quote, this is one of the largest and longest running cohort studies to examine recommended dietary patterns and long-term risk of premature deaths and deaths from major diseases. Hu and his team scored participants on how closely they followed 4 healthy eating styles that are in sync with the current U.S. dietary guidelines. Now, once again, the U.S. dietary guidelines 20, 30 years ago said low fat was good for you. Does anyone remember that? Anyone who's older than me? Does anyone remember the low fat thing? Yeah, that was made up. Low fat was actually worse for you. Does anyone remember that? This is like a big thing in the 1980s and 90s. Low fat. The exact opposite of what you needed to do. They told you, eat low fat, high carbohydrate. That's what the government said. Why? Because the food industry, just like the tobacco industry, bought off politicians 30 years prior. The food industry bought off the politicians and lied. Cigarettes are actually healthy for you. It's crazy ass shit. Low fat's garbage. So again, definitely stay clear of the U.S. dietary guidelines. They're bought and paid for. Stick to the science. One is the Mediterranean diet, which stresses eating fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, legumes, fish, and high amounts of olive oil. Hey, I eat a lot of olive oil. A lot. Too much. I just drink it. I drink it by the gallon. I go glug, 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 glug. You know? Love that shit. This dietary pattern emphasizes healthy fats, especially monounsaturated fat, in addition to plant-based foods and moderate alcohol. Yeah, that's right. Wine is part of the Mediterranean diet, my friends. Oh, yes. Let's all have a glass of wine and then chase it down with a glass of olive oil. Am I right? The next is called the Healthful Plant-Based Diet, which also focuses on eating more plant products, but gives negative points for all animal products and any alcohol. Negative points. I love that. And also, negative points for any alcohol. I think that's bullshit. I'm going to be honest. I think that's bullshit. Moderate drinking. Hey, there are some studies that say moderate drinking is actually better for you than not drinking at all. Now, I don't know how much of that is copium, right? So do your own research. But, hey, I'm just saying, follow the science. And that means science is ever evolving. And that means you should be ever evolving your research. It even discourages relatively healthy options like fish or some dairy products, Hugh said, adding that the eating plan frowns on unhealthy plant-based foods such as potato products. Quote, so you can imagine that vegetarians are probably on the higher end of this diet score, he said. Hey, as a vegetarian, feels good to win. Haven't eaten meat multiple years now. And how do I look? Look pretty good. A lot of people say, oh, you don't eat meat? You're malnourished. Well, those people are fucking stupid. I'm looking pretty nourished. I look nourished and nourishing. So, hey. Cry about it. The Healthy Eating Index tracks whether people follow basic U.S. nutritional guidelines, which stress healthy plant-based foods, frown on red and processed meat, and discourage eating added sugar, unhealthy fats, and alcohol. Now again, U.S. nutritional guidelines says that you can have 25 grams of added sugar in your daily diet. 25 grams of added sugar? What the fuck? What? Not 25 grams of sugar, which is also pretty bad, but 25 grams of added sugar. That's what the U.S. nutritional guideline says. That's fucking crazy. I'm sorry. That's fucking crazy. Added sugar is garbage. Added sugar is trash. And it's a drug, and it's worse for you and more addictive than alcohol. If you drink alcohol every day, people would say you're an alcoholic. If you eat sugar every day, which has the same metabolic process as alcohol, you just don't get high from it, or at least the high is not as good. People say, oh, you're following the U.S. nutritional guidelines. Everyday average American. That's crazy shit. So next time you want to judge someone for drinking every day, think about how much sugar you're eating. I'll tell you this much. I don't eat added sugar. I stopped a long time ago. Now every once in a while, something I'll try has like a, a little bit of it. But I usually steer very far away from added sugar. Why? Because it's usually, added sugar is usually like high fructose corn syrup or some garbage. But you know what? I would consider myself a moderate drinker. I've been trying to curb that back a little bit. But if you were to ask me to choose alcohol or candy, alcohol or soda, alcohol or ice cream, alcohol or barbecue sauce, alcohol or whatever fucking garbage with added sugar, I'm gonna choose alcohol. Why? Because at least I can fucking get high from that shit. I'm just saying. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just saying. That's my opinion. Why would you have sugar, which is like, wow, it's so sweet, and then it's over? You drink a fucking glass of wine, and you're like, woo! You're going to end up like the cops in that story I told about recently. Have some fun. Eat some sugar, and it's like, and then it's over. You drink a shot of whiskey, and you're like, woo! You know what I'm saying? You're about to have a good night. Read a fucking hardcover book by the fucking candlelight. You know what I mean? Have a great evening. Sugar fucking sucks. Sugar fucking sucks. Now, why do you like sugar? Because it's chemically addictive. I got a dog right here. I don't know if anyone can see this. Look at this. This is what I'm dealing with. This is my current situation. So and I'm not going to sit here and tell people to drink. If you can avoid alcohol in your life, probably a good thing. But what I am saying is, if you have sugar and alcohol, consider cutting back on the sugar and doubling up on the alcohol. That's what I'm saying, okay? Now, again, I'm not a doctor. You shouldn't drink or have sugar in your life. You don't need any of those. But what I'm saying is, it's worth considering, because it all falls in the same category. Now, again, sugar does not destroy your brain as much as alcohol. That's one key difference. But still, my point here is that, dietarily speaking, you don't need any sugar to live. You don't need any sugar to live. None. You can live 100 years without ever eating sugar. Why? Because your body makes sugar, dummy. Your body creates sugar, dummy. That's why you don't need it. If you avoid sugar, you're good to go. Because your body will be like, oh shit, I'm going to make some glucose, which is actually healthy for you. Dietary glucose, not really. But glucose, You need it to live. Fructose fucks you up. Sucrose fucks you up. I've been reading a lot about diet sweeteners as well. So avoid those. But if you're going to have a soda, my opinion, diet's better than nothing. But nothing is... Diet's better than sugar, but nothing is better than diet. Findings by disease. After each person's eating pattern was scored, the participants were divided into 5 groups, or quintiles, from highest to lowest adherence to one or more of the eating patterns. The highest quintile of diet, this is a quote, quality as compared to the lowest was associated with roughly 20% reduction in all-cause mortality. Said Katz, president of the study also found reductions in risk of death from certain chronic disease if people improved their diet over time. And I'm just going to tell you this much. It's not about dying. We got to stop talking about the world in these binaries. Either you're alive or you're dead. How about the quality of your life? How about that? Are we going to talk about life quality? Dying? Being alive? You can be alive, but be dead on the inside and wish you were dead. So, hey, I'm just saying, when you eat better, your life is better. You feel better. You think more sharply. You're more present. You're more aware of the world around you. So, hey, if I were to ask you a question, quantity or quality, which would you choose? But also, why? That's a fucked up question. Because you can have quality and quantity both at the same time. You can extend your lifespan, live longer, and live better and happier. So I'm just saying. Participants who improved the health of their diet by 25% could reduce their risk from dying from cardiovascular disease by a range of 6 to 13% and dying from cancer by 7 to 18%. He said there was a 7% reduction in risk of death by neurodegenerative diseases such as dementia. Quote, respiratory disease mortality reduction was actually much greater, reducing risk by 35 to 46%. Now this, respiratory disease mortality reduction was actually much greater, reducing risk from 35 to 46%. Respiratory disease, really? Let's think about this. What is a respiratory disease that's been going around? Well, I would say COVID, but it's not single-handedly a respiratory disease. It's more of a, vascular disease that can target and mostly targets the respiratory system because that's how it infects your body. But my point here is, when we have a pandemic and we have scientific evidence that shitty eating habits make you more susceptible to respiratory illnesses, and the pandemic mostly infects you via your respiratory system, you would think people like Anthony Fauci or Rochelle Walensky or Joe Biden or Ajit Shah would go around and say, hey, maybe you should fix your diet, right? Well, I mean, they won't even tell people to wear a mask, let alone deal with the elephant in the room, which is our diet. Our government is so afraid of crazy fascists that they won't even tell people to wear masks. Why and when did science get this politicized, where we can't even have a basic discussion on how to prevent a disease because what if a right-winger sees what I say? I can't tell people to eat legumes because then a right-winger might see what I say and that's bad for business. When did we get to this point where science has been politicized? Well, the answer is we've always been here. That's why the food industry told you that low fat was the way to go 30 years ago. That's why the tobacco industry told you the cigarettes were good for you 50 years ago. We've always been here. That's why fossil fuel companies will say, climate change, science has always been politicized. And that is why I think science is so valuable. Because science is apolitical. Science is liberatory. You can engage in the scientific method in your daily life and be free from the chains of oppression that capitalism tries to force you into. Just by seeing the world around you for what it really is instead of the propagandized version that you're sold via television. So anyway, you can read I guess that is the rest of it, but yeah, just eat better and you'll live longer and you'll be healthier. Now, I also want to say this. Let's get selfish. Let's get Machiavellian, right? Let's have a little fun with this subject. Don't you want, after this pandemic is over, don't you want to be at an advantage? Let's purely, I'm just talking purely selfish, Machiavellian. These are the moments. Spend this time during this pandemic. And it's possible we'll be in the pandemic forever, right? Maybe. But think about it. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to have, your health is going to be at an all-time high. Your creative skills are going to be at an all-time high. Your logical thinking skills are going to be at an all-time high. Your brain is going to be processing information significantly at higher rates than the average COVID-addled, diseased, non-fiber eating, shitty diet eating motherfucker. So just think about it. If you have no other purpose or reason to eat healthy, and if you're a psychopath, a sociopath, think about it. Pure strategy. Don't you want to be better off when the clouds part and we get back to normal, whatever that means? So I'm just saying, I don't know, man. I don't know how else to convince people. But 95% of Americans are drug addicts. You don't see that on Fox News. Fox News loves to talk about fentanyl. Goddamn homeless people are drug addicts. The blacks and their crack. But what about the white people and their Skittles? What about the rich people and their gourmet candies? What about, you ever see those like fucking food videos of these like rich New York candy shops or whatever where you can get like that golden encrusted like pie or whatever? What about that kind of shit? What about kids and Fruit Loops? Any parents out there? If you give your kids breakfast cereal like Fruit Loops, you might as well skip the milk and pour in some beer, because at least the kid's going to enjoy their breakfast. Now, obviously, I'm not advocating to give kids alcohol. In the same way, I wouldn't advocate to give kids Fruit Loops. You give your kids orange juice. Orange juice is as bad for you as soda. But kids drink more of it because they're lied to and parents tell them it's healthy. I was lied to as a kid. My grandparents said, you got to drink orange juice every day. Why? It's healthy for you. Now, I don't know if they knew any better. They probably didn't. But juice, scientifically speaking, is as unhealthy as soda. And kids drink more of it because they're told it's actually good for you. If you were told that Coca-Cola was super healthy and you tried Coca-Cola and you're like, yo, this is awesome. You're telling me this is healthy? You'd be drinking that shit every day. That's juice. So anyway, a lot of people do whine about my food segments. I say, I don't know, man. Maybe don't watch them. I don't know. But I'm not going to stop telling the truth just because you get upset about it. So Though I do appreciate, I would prefer if people did tell me if they didn't like these segments. I want to know what percentage of my audience likes what and doesn't like what. You know, that's valuable information. But anyway, there you go.